What's up, you guys, and welcome back to another video. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're not, then welcome back. Today's video is relatively simple. It's going to be the top tips that I have to rebuild muscle after a training break, especially given the pandemic. A lot of us went through a training break because gyms closed down, and maybe for most of us, we didn't have equipment at home, so that would force us into doing bodyweight exercises or stop exercising completely, which is what happened to me. So yeah. What I'm going to be talking about today is my personal structure, what I've researched, what I've read, what I've watched from different articles on how to rebuild muscle after a training break the fastest and most effective way there is. Just to inform you guys, we're going to be briefly discussing muscle loss, how fast you lose muscle, what a training break is, but the big chunk is going to be about my top tips to rebuild all our lost gains. And it doesn't matter if you're a powerlifter or a bodybuilder or a CrossFitter, this video is for you if you went through a training break. Natural athletes all gain and lose muscle at the same rate and are bound by the same natural principles. So yeah, if you're interested in reading more about the information in this video, all the links to the articles I researched will be below. Let's jump right into it. First off, I'd like to describe what is muscle loss. So to put it simply, muscle loss is like the tug of war between muscle protein synthesis, which is the building of muscle, and muscle protein breakdown. So syempre, the less physical activity you have, the more muscle breakdown that occurs. If you do absolutely nothing at all, meaning you lie down on your bed all day long doing nothing, you wake up, you sleep, you wake up, you sleep, then you're losing muscle. But in another study, it says that if you're getting dressed, if you're still getting out of bed, and if you're walking around, then you lose less muscle. Pretty simple. You can take a break from training for up to 3 weeks without fear of atrophy. Pero ano nga ba ang atrophy? Muscle atrophy is when muscles waste away. It's usually caused by a lack of physical activity. And you can imagine an injury. Let's say you break an arm or you break a leg and they have to put it in a cast. If it's impossible for you to move that arm or leg, the lack of mobility will result in muscle wasting. Tapos over time, because there's no regular movement, your arm or leg will start to appear smaller. That's because of muscle shrinkage or muscle atrophy. Paano naman kung dahil sa COVID, di ka naka-workout for 2 months? Which is probably the case for a lot of us, including myself. Mas matagal pa nga ako. But studies show that after 6 weeks, we do lose 42% of our muscle mass, and after 8 weeks, we lose 50% of our muscle mass. So medyo malala siya, but not to worry, that's why this video is here, so that you guys can learn from me. Hopefully, I can teach you something about rebuilding muscle. Next, we'll talk about what a training break is. Very simply, if you exercise for any regular basis and you stop for any X amount of time, then that's basically a training break. If you stop for 1 week, if you stop for 1 day, if you stop for 1 year, that's a training break. But since we talked about how training breaks affect muscle loss earlier in this video, now I'll give you the 4 steps how to get your gains back as quickly as possible. Madalas, ayaw ng mga tao marinig yung slow and steady approach, which is understandable because you worked so hard to get those gains in the first place. Tapos, all of a sudden, because of a training break, because of pandemic, nawala lahat. And it's understandable for you to want to achieve the physique as fast as possible because you've already done it in the past. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with wanting to get your gains back as quickly as you can, as long as you make an effort to structure your plan well. So let's get into how to do that. What not to do. First and foremost, what not to do, but sadly, I think most people will do, wag na wag kayo mag-beast mode sa gym on your first few weeks back. Don't try to do the same loads that you lifted in the past. Let's say you benched 225 in the past, you took a break for maybe 2 months, 3 months, you jump back in, you jump to 225. Don't do that. Why? Because not only does it slow the recovery process of your body in terms of muscle building, it can also lead to injury. Jumping back in randomly and vigorously is effective in introducing the stimulus, which is in this case exercise. It leaves no room for recovery. So, lakas mo mag-exercise pero hindi naman nakakasabay ang katawan mo sa recovery. In order to build size and strength, you need exercise to cause the micro tears in your body and your muscles. You recover from those micro tears to grow bigger and newer, stronger musculature. So, kung yung stimulus mo, in this case, exercise, is too high or too intense, too fast, you're going to overwhelm your body's ability to recover. Ang mangyayari, you're working harder for slower gains. Kailangan natin ng balance between the two. So, the 4 steps. First, ito yung rare time where you can expect to grow like a new lifter again. Yung tawag nating newbie gains. You can experience that again. But that's only gonna happen if you do have a good plan. Bago ka pa bumalik sa gym, make sure that you have the comeback plan written down. Kung mag-freestyle o mag-beast mode lang kayo dyan, malaki ang temptation to push too hard and to overtrain. Don't worry though, because research shows that it's much easier to rebuild lost muscle than it is to build muscle from scratch. So if you've been there, you've done that, you can do it again. Second, expect to have lost some strength and endurance. This is the part where you check your ego at the door and you adjust your expectations to set new starting points for yourself. Kalimutan mo na yung old PRs mo, kalimutan mo na yung old sets, yung old reps, kung gaano ka-intense ka mag-train, throw it out the window. I want you to write down your new numbers and start off with a new baseline. Strength regain can take about half the time you took off. So if you took 2 months off, you'd need about a month to train back up. If you take 4 months off, you need 2 months to train back up. If you take 6 months off, you need 3 months, and so on. The rule though might just work for timelines of months and not years. So if you've gone beyond the year, then this may not necessarily apply to you. It might take a longer, more detailed process to build back up to where you were before. Number 3, choose your exercises wisely. Avoid soreness. When I say avoid soreness, I mean avoid exercises na talagang make your body too sore na hindi ka makaka-train the next day or within the next 2 days. Bakit? Because soreness doesn't help on a comeback program. It doesn't help hypertrophy, and it also reduces your ability to perform and recover. Pero syempre, when you go back to training, soreness will naturally occur. Nandyan talaga yan, but we should do our best to minimize it by doing exercises that cause less muscle damage. This means exercises that load in a highly stretched position, such as walking lunges o kaya Romanian deadlifts. We should avoid those exercises. Di naman sama-sama yun, but there are other exercises that can stimulate the same muscle groups at a lesser recovery cost. Does that make sense? Focus na lang tayo on movements that we can feel are working our muscles without making us feel wrecked for several days after. Let's pick exercises that help us establish a good mind-muscle connection, give us a good pump, make our muscles feel worked, and if you're in the gym, cables and machines will be your best friends dahil mas low impact sila, so it's easier on the muscles. But when working with free weights, load them more gradually. So mas dahan-dahan dapat tayo dun. This includes compound exercises such as the squat, bench, deadlift, overhead press. Those exercises pack a very high stimulus, but also pack a high fatigue. Number 4, creating your program. We talk about volume, intensity, and frequency. We need to create a bridging program with 2 phases. There's an intro phase and a transition phase. Gaano katagal ba ang bridging program? The longer the break that you took, the longer the bridge has to be. Back tayo sa half the time rule that I said earlier. 2 months off, 1 month to train back up, and so on. Tatanggalin ko na muna dito yung mga overlays and graphics that you've seen earlier in this video, because this is the part that I want you to listen to the most. Take notes if you have to, because this is what's going to help you structure your program on your own if you don't have a coach. The intro phase. What is the intro phase? It's more about the neural aspect of lifting. What does that mean? Our focus here will be mind-muscle connection. Kailangan natin i-restore or i-teach ulit ang katawan natin to feel the muscles that we're trying to work out. Be it man kung bicep curl yan, kung tricep push down, whatever, we have to retrain and teach our body how to make that mind-muscle connection. Focus on good technique and use lighter loads. For compound lifts, let's say you enjoyed the 3 big lifts, which are your squat, bench, and deadlift. Try to do 50% of your old 1 rep max for around 2 sets of 4 to 6 reps. It seems a bit light now, pero remember na hindi kailangan mag-train to failure in order to get all the gains back. For isolation exercises, we can do a bit more volume, pero ang importante dyan, gamitin natin yung exercises na to remember what it feels like to have a good pump. Try to get 7 to 10 sets per body part per week to start off. Again, 7 to 10 sets per body part per week to start off. Hitting each muscle group twice a week is probably the sweet spot and the balance for stimulus and recovery. Less than 2 might make you undertrain, more than 2 might make you overtrain. So let's stick to that. I would suggest you do a push-pull leg split na 6 days a week, or you can do an upper-lower split na 4 days a week. So you can try those things. Next, the transition phase. Ito na yung mas exciting part of the bridging program because this is where you start to feel more like your old self. This is much simpler than the intro phase. We start by gradually increasing the weights, more weights, more reps, more sets. For volume, if you feel like you're not getting too sore, you can start to add on more volume as well. After the bridging program, if you've done it right, you can start getting back into your old program that you were running pre-training break. But remember to do it gradually pa rin and train using progressive overload. Huwag pa rin natin i-shock ang sistema natin. And remember these 4 tips that I presented to you today. So yeah, that's it for the video. thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please do give a like, subscribe for more content. Next week, I'll be talking about my home gym setup. If you're interested in that, well, subscribe. So yeah, thank you so much again. I hope that you've learned something from me today. Peace.